Do you have a hard time receiving? Well, I was just like you, so listen close. My name is Sylvia Mordini. I'm the founder of Life Inspired. And we can get caught up in this cycle of thinking that if we are only giving, that this is a very altruistic way of life, and patting ourselves on the back for being able to do that. But if we are constantly only giving, there's something there to unpack related to control and related to the fact that if we're giving, we feel often like we have an upper hand. There's some sort of power at play. Because when we are in a place of true receptivity, that requires vulnerability. Receptivity requires vulnerability. So we can keep everyone distracted by just giving, so that we don't have to be vulnerable. Or we can allow ourselves to receive just a tiny little bit and then share something slightly vulnerable. But to truly live a most authentic life and to deepen intimate relationships with our friends, with our family, with our beloveds, it requires the utmost stepping into receptivity. And in spiritual practices, it's so often said that we can only actually give to the degree that we're able to receive. So as great a giver as you may think you are, there's actually a capacity for a whole lot more, but only if you allow yourself to receive. And receiving can be highly uncomfortable. For some of us, we come from cultural backgrounds, our ancestry, that even not to trust this place of receiving. Because if we receive, what do they want from us? Like a tit for tat. That there's absolutely no way that we could put ourselves in this very vulnerable place of receiving to think that somebody's just going to give us something, support us for the sheer sake of doing that, right? So if there are ancestral wounds, and for me, part of that is my immigrant story. I just grew up knowing that I had to work harder than everybody else around me. And so there was no time to receive. I'm just literally constantly in the doing. To me, receiving would be like slacking. It would mean that I wasn't doing something. And I needed to constantly be doing 10 times as much to get to the same place as a fellow student. And so really unraveling that immigrant dynamic for me has taken a long time, as well as then the capacity to trust someone else. Because when we're receiving, there's a state of surrender. And in that state of surrender, in that place of vulnerability, it requires some degree of trust for the other person from us in order to receive. And so again, if there's anything there where you have been taught not to trust people, or your life experience, societal conditioning has shown you not to trust people time and time again, then simply saying, oh yes, I'll figure out how to learn to receive, it's not as easy as that. It will take a conscious effort. And if you found, for instance, that in relationships, you can only get to a certain depth of intimacy, of real knowing with the other person, I want you to consider if it's because of this dynamic of not fully knowing how to receive. It's like a muscle that if you don't work that muscle, it atrophies, or maybe it's never developed. And so now it's not too late to learn how to be receptive, to open up, to allow. And one of my favorite metaphors, and I'll use this as an actual experience, is that when we go to the ocean and we stand at the shoreline, the water and the waves are just coming towards us. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to run out there and give to the water. If you just stand still, surrender into that moment, ground out, the water will come to you. All you have to do is go into a state of being and receive and allow the water to wash over your feet. Or maybe you step in a little bit more and just let the water come to you and receive it without fighting it, without pushing or resisting against it, but simply allow yourself to receive it. And this is a beautiful meditation that you can practice, where you can imagine yourself in a visualization right there at the water's edge and just allowing the water to come to you. And even practicing closing your eyes and feeling the water come over your toes or over your ankles or up to your shins or your knees. And seeing how long you could keep your eyes closed to just believe that you're safe, and you can just trust the water's coming in and you can receive. And then if we take this into the work of the divine feminine and in intimate relationships, the feminine energy, so to speak, okay? Receptivity is our superpower, and we all have feminine energy just like we have the masculine energy. But in intimate relationships, if all you're doing is in the masculine and you're in that giving, doing, actioning, then it's going to be really hard to tap into the greatest resources of pleasure, no matter who you are. And so think about that in your intimate relationship with your beloved. Is there a way that it could go deeper, but it requires that you both learn to practice balancing the surrender to receive, and that it's all going to be okay. So watch in intimate relationship those three main places of tension that are like the opposite of receiving: your tightness in your jaw. So just relax your jaw, move it around. And then tension in the shoulders, so little circle rolls, relax your shoulders. And then in the pelvic floor, so deep belly breathing. And those three places will help you to just soften and release into that place of receptivity. And then I promise you, from there, the amount of pleasure that you'll experience is exponentially out of this world. And then when it comes to the power of manifestation, we set our intentions. We're clear on what we're calling in. But if you're always like, stop, but yes, I want this, but I don't want to receive it. I'm not good at receiving, but yes, please come. It's very confusing to send both these signals out to the world and to the universe at large and those around us, right? So instead, Hasta Mudra, palms open, elbows relaxed. It's very simple mudra, and just going outside and just palms open, and just receive the air between your fingers, receive the sun on your face, receive the earth underneath your feet, and let it ground you and support you. And you can do this in sun salutations, you can do this inside your home. Just take 10-15 seconds to practice this every day for a month of Hasta Mudra. And notice that at first your hands could be tight and there's tension, and then over time everything will start to relax, because the more you practice this gesture of receptivity, the easier it becomes. And so Hasta Mudra is just such a beautiful, energetic receptor and a practice. And then when your arms are like this in this Hasta Mudra, your heart is open as compared to closing the arms and creating a lack of vulnerability, a tightness, a protection, right? And so here, heart is open, heart chakra is open, and there's a little vulnerability there. And then just breathe there. If it feels uncomfortable to be this open, then be with that. Because we can unlock all these habits we've created. When we're only giving, it puts us in a place of utmost comfort and safety. It's like taking your heart out and putting it into a safety deposit box. Certainly, you're not going to get hurt. But that's not exactly the same as living, right? And so it's the same when we're just giving, giving, giving. It's a very safe and maybe comfortable place. And when we go into this experience of receiving, it may be uncomfortable, but that's where the growth is going to happen. Just stay with it, be gentle with yourself, and you'll start to unravel the knots that have been created, whether it's generational and ancestral or just from the occurrences of things that have happened in your life. But I know that it's possible. Playing it safe and being in an overly comfortable situation is the opposite of happiness. People think that the opposite of happiness is unhappiness, but it's not. Being too comfortable is the opposite of happiness, because this becomes apathetic routine and that tightness because of that over safe quality. There's almost no flavor, it's bland. And when we receive, there's an excitement, there's all the flavors possible. But imagine in the work of manifestation, if you can really now set your intentions, but practice being open and allowing yourself to receive all that you want to manifest, how much more quickly it will all manifest for you. And I want that for you. So receptivity requires vulnerability, and you'll be better for it, so that we can find this balance of giving and receiving, just like the inhalation and the exhalation, the sun and the moon, night and day. We need both, and we need both to work in harmony. May this have inspired you, and if so, please subscribe to my channel below. I am so grateful for you. I'm bringing more and more videos every week, and I am grateful for you to be here. I am open to receiving your support for my dreams and for me to live my Dharma, and sharing these Dharma talks and these inspirations to live a life inspired from my heart to your heart.